you so much for joining this session. All right, in this session, I want to show you how I come out of curses into blessings. In fact, a few weeks ago, our senior pastor talked about that. All right, and it was really, really exciting for me sitting in front of the TV because I was still doing service online, talking about situation that I actually had to go through just recently, and I'll share that with you. And of course, the other one is, I believe our faith is like a muscle. It needs exercise, all right? And I'm excited to share with you how I do that on a daily basis, all right? And truly, like exercise, you have to do it daily. It's not an afterthought, right? Just when you get sick, then you want to exercise, right? That's the worst time for it, okay? So it grows with use. So how we transform started early in July, everyone, with my son graduating. All right, because of my mother-in-law situation, sadly, my wife wasn't able to join us for the convocation, right? But at least I was able to be there for him, right? But very quickly soon, all right, I also got my membership with SIB, all right? That was a couple of weeks ago, all right? It was exciting because it's taken me 12 years to get there. All right, some people say, that sounds like a lifetime. Why did you take 12 years? Pastor Jeffrey asked me as I was leaving the auditorium. I said, well, I don't know. Truly, I don't know why it took me 12 years, but with some determination and analysis, I think I know the reason. So if you're interested during the Connect time, come ask me. I'd love to share more. Okay, but what is more important than that actually is the cell group that I'm part of that welcomed me into SIB, right? So I have my cell leader, Seong, who is with that very colorful mask right out front, right? And of course, I had some of my other cell members as well, okay? Now, sadly, I lost my mom-in-law exactly 1 week ago, right? My dear wife's mom, all right, passed on due to heart failure, right? And it was heartbreaking because when we decided to give up our Australian PR in 1997, right, they came to live with us. All right, so it's a 25-year living together that ended last week. All right, but it was also good that we were able to rededicate her to Jesus. So at least we are comforted that she's now in heaven with Jesus. Okay, so that's important for us because we go through these ups and downs. As you can see, in a month, I went through a high with my son's convocation, and then I crashed with my mom-in-law's passing on. But what can we do with that? Some of these things is way beyond our control, okay? But I take pleasure to talk about John 10:10, all right? The thief came to steal our joy, truly, right, by taking away someone so precious to us. But there is blessings at the end of all of that, all right? And the blessings is what I want us to think about. So that's why last weekend, we had Pastor Jeffrey talk about, you raised me up. That was really, truly very strong for me because I just lost my mom-in-law then. That was the best raising up that I needed at my personal level. So I know some of you probably go through highs and lows, even within a month or even within a day. But how do you pick up yourself? Sometimes we can't pick up ourselves. We need someone else to pick us up. So that's why the service brought some really, really relevant points that I wanted to share with you. One is learning from Jesus, all right? I do my quiet time daily, and I learn from Jesus in order to do that. Some of you may read books, you have podcasts, you have all kinds of different things to learn from. I discovered I learn from Jesus on a daily basis so that when I crash, when we had to go through the wake service just last few days, right, and then the funeral, it was really, really tough. Among all of that, thank God I had my cell to come alongside, right? I had people like Pastor Chandran come alongside to help us with the wake and the funeral. So I was able to leverage on others to gain strength, all right? But I decided to go ahead with coming in today. Although if I told Pastor Joel I can't make it, I'm sure he understands after I've just lost someone, but I chose to come in to lift someone up. And hopefully that will be you in this particular session. Now, for those of you who don't know the language, neither do I, there was actually a little write-up to this particular video. It was someone who constructed a 1 to 2 minute video about the chronic hunger with people around the world. So this individual, the father and the daughter, went to this supermarket, right? And the father had the intent to steal from the supermarket to feed his family. When the shopkeeper realized their situation, he decided to take money from the till to give him, to bless him, on top of saying, "You forgot your change." Now that's truly humility and feeling for the people. That picked me up a lot, considering what's happened in the family in the last few weeks, right? The protection that individual felt that he had a chance to give to this individual. On top of that, you saw the last bit where there was a customer who gave him a bag of rice. Now, these are truly angels in your life. I had many of these over the last 30 plus years in IT. Right? I know some of you probably won't believe me that I've been in IT for 30 plus years. That's okay. During Connect time, I'll show you my card if you want to see my age. But I have been there for a long time. And I had many of these angels in my life to pick me up in those kind of situations. So I wanted to help you understand that this company that I started 8 years ago, is at a very pivotal juncture. We do high-end training for companies like HP, Microsoft, Dell, Lenovo. A lot of it is because of my past experience with Microsoft, right? But that's not the key thing why I'm here, right? The work that we do is actually at the end of the day to help people, right? I realized about 20 years ago, I've been given a mission, and the mission is to help people. Now, how do we help people is to first and foremost understand the people we are helping. Some people need help in very unique way, right? So we need to understand and build a relationship with the individual to help them, right? But more importantly, it's not just about business. We do a lot beyond business, helping the individuals, right? So this spells out the areas that we look at. I know the text is a bit small, but for me, the key point is believe in God, right? All of us in the room, I believe in God, whoever that God is to you, but my God is the God of heaven and earth, all right? So that's why I even brought my Bible with me, because until about 3 years ago, before the pandemic started, I used to travel across the whole region from Australia, New Zealand, all the way to India in the east, in the west, and from Japan south to Indonesia, right? And I go through some places that I think a lot of people won't dare to go, right? And then I realized without the Bible with me, I wasn't safe. Something told me I needed to bring the Bible with me. So everywhere I went, I decided to bring the Bible. So even in today's session, I brought my Bible. All right, and my quiet time always goes through certain prayers, because it's very important for us to anchor in those areas. So in order for me to survive this pandemic for the last 2.5 years, I use these 3 key things that help me. And I want to spend the next 10 minutes going through that 3 key things. One is continuous improvement. I know sometimes we find it very hard to improve, right? Because we have worked so hard in our lives, how much further can we go? But when I read the Bible in the morning, God tells me what to do. In fact, I was sharing with Vic, who's just joined me recently. I have a stack of all these blue papers, all right? And every day, he gives me at least 1 page worth of ideas on what to do with my business. Now, I think you probably think, Noel is selling God. He's trying to convince me that God's going to give me ideas. But actually, I'm doing more than that. I'm just telling you that God is your able helper if you allow him to do it for you. That's how I continuously improve. Truly. And if you don't believe me, connect with me. I'll show you those. All right? I'm a very practical person, because for me, if I can't do it myself, I don't believe it can be done. That's how practical it gets. So God knows that. So he gives me all these ideas that he knows that I can use, and therefore it works, right? So, but I also believe in feedback. So hopefully during the connect time, you give me feedback whether this session was useful for you, right? And I always strongly believe in learning, right? If you don't continue to learn, even in baby steps, right, you can't improve. But more importantly than that, you also need to have the courage to try new things. New ideas are important, right? And a lot of times you won't believe it. God knows how to add to the ideas that you have. So you get new ideas all the time, exciting ideas. But God also wants us to take risks. When we take risks, you know what happens to us? We are saying to God, I'm going to try this new idea, but guess what? I'm not completely able to do it. I need you as part of the plan. I can't build a plan on my own. You understand what I'm saying? You're allowing God into your life so that you have a plan that is with Him in it. Sometimes we try so hard to have a bulletproof plan, a plan that we think is going to work. But trust me, in the last 8 years running this business, my wife can tell you, I've taken things in my hands where I didn't consult God and it didn't work out. I will show you that plan. Christ-like, I think those of us who are Christians in this room, you know what I mean by fruit of the Spirit, right? Trust me, it's harder than it looks to do all the things in there, right? So I do my best to try, okay? But very importantly, everything we do, we must honor God. So let me show you some of the examples of how during this endemic, we can do all of those things and succeed in doing it. So these are the 4 prayers that I do. Right now, I'm sure most of you know the Jabez prayer, right, for blessings. Now, my style is this. When I get the Jabez prayer, after 3 reads, right, I changed it already. This is my version of Jabez prayer. This is how I continuously improve. I even pick up prayers and I improve on it. I'm not satisfied to just reading it as it is. Okay, I can send you the soft copy, sir, so that you can include that into your daily prayer if you want. Okay, because this is the hard copy, you need to input it into your phone and so forth. I'll give you the soft copy. So same thing with this one, our work prayer. These are 4 prayers that I do every day without fail. All right, and it's on this piece of paper. I brought this as proof to you. Okay, it's not concocted from anywhere. And of course, the other one is my family prayer. I gave up my Aussie PR for my family. And that's why I'm here to be able to testify to you. Okay, so obviously my family is very important. So I have a prayer for them. Last but not least, I also have a prayer for our home. Because when we came in, someone told me our home is haunted. Okay, so we invited Pastor Gilbert to pray. My cell leader, Seong, came to pray, and so forth. We did all the right things, okay, in order to invite the presence of the Holy Spirit into our home. So I do this regularly to re-invite the Holy Spirit to be part of our lives in our home. But sometimes all these places I go to, I don't know what I bring back. Truly. All right. So I have to be very, very careful, right, to protect the home from any possible attacks. So that said, I also believe that we cannot always be running. It's very tiring. That's what happened to me for 6 years prior to the pandemic. I was traveling across the region. I was running all the time, always in high-speed gear, wearing myself out. Okay, so sometimes we have to change the gears in order to get down to the right way to understand how to help people better and how to make the right timely decisions in our lives. Right? At the end of the day, we want to win the race of life and stay with God at the end. Right? We don't want to end up rejecting God. That's very scary. Right? That's why I made special effort to make sure my mom-in-law was rededicated before anything else happens. We don't know what's going to happen in our lives. I want her to be saved. Okay, so now, how do we do some of these things? Most of us think of the most conventional way. Conventional means what everyone else does. All right, but I'm not a conventional person. I'm a very, very unconventional person when you get to know me better. All right, my wife will testify to that. All right, because everything that someone says is the right way, I choose to analyze that and think of another way to do it. I use the most unorthodox way. Now, give you a story when I was growing up. My dad was a dairy farmer. So every day he brings back milk. Being a dairy farmer, right? But he's one of the few Chinese dairy farmers in Malaysia. How many of you know people who go around selling milk in bottles or in packets and they're Chinese? No, right? My dad is one of those few people in Stromban. Most of them are Punjabis and Indians, right? But my dad was a dairy farmer, one of the few in the country. So he brings back milk. And my job was to boil the milk with Milo and sugar, right? Now, what's the order of how you boil milk? You put the sugar in first, melt it, then put the milk? No, right? Guess what? I would do that. And I did that. And you know what was the outcome? A burnt pot. And you know what happened, right? In the typical family, you got beating. So I taught you to put the milk first, then you put the sugar, and the end, when it's boiled, you add the Milo, right? That's the right order, right? But why do you have to start with sugar? So for me, it was very simple. Being an 8-year-old, I was curious. What would happen if I reverse the order, put the sugar in first? Now, it would have been okay if I was fast enough to put the milk before the sugar starts to burn, because that was what I was trying to do. But guess what? I got distracted. Isn't that true in a lot of times our lives? We want to do it right. We want to do it our way, and we eliminate God from that way. And then we got distracted, we got lost. Okay, so we have to be very careful. There's conventional wisdom, but there's also the right unorthodox way that you can use. So I use the Bible reading regularly to help me steer back into God's way. Not my way, not the conventional way, not everyone's way. Okay, so those are the kind of things that we do sometimes in life that we have to be very careful. So I like this saying from Benjamin Franklin. Failing to plan is planning to fail. How many of you have heard this before? I'm sure quite a few of you. But have you seen this one before? From Simon Sinek. Always plan for the fact that no plan ever goes according to plan. Sounds like a play of words, isn't it? So many times the word plan being used. But when you start at the beginning, you soon realize at the end it's actually not the same thing. It's quite the opposite. No plan ever goes according to plan. Correct. Expect the unexpected. But I discovered when you allow God into your plan, no matter how unexpected it is, He fixes, He closes the gap for you. And that's how I survived for the last 2.5 years. Trust me, when the pandemic hit Malaysia in March, my workshops in Korea and all that, everyone thought was going to be game over. Noel, no more work for 3 months. Live on fresh air and sunshine. But you know what my customer says? We still must continue. Guess how we're going to do it? Webinar. Virtual. And not only that, he says, since you cannot travel, you got so much more time. We'll pack your calendar for you. How about that? So when you thought that it was end of the world for 3 months, all right, suddenly the customer comes back and says, you know what? When we send you to Seoul, right, for 2 sessions, you have to go there for 3 days. 1 day to get there, 1 day to do the training, the 2 sessions, and then 1 day to go home. 3 days out of the week's gone. So he says, well, we do the 2 sessions. Since you got so many other slots available now, let's do some sessions from India, some from Australia, and so forth. Next thing I know, I've got 6, 7 sessions where in the past I only had 2, 3 sessions for the week because of the travel. See how God transformed that, right? Now, if I try to plan it, I'll probably be pulling my hair out because I have to sell this idea to all these people. But when your customer is the one that comes to you and says, let's do this, it's done. Right? It's done. You don't have to do it. No selling needed. God planned it for you. It's not my plan. It was His plan. Okay? So the continuous part is very important. The feedback that I get from them. Now, one of the unique things about me is I'm not scared of bad feedback. Customer tells me, right, in the last 8 years I've been doing on my own, 2 customers, and they are still customers today, told me that the training that I did didn't meet the mark. But they said they know why. So I said, very good. I'll do it for you again for free. Now, how many people are willing to do that? Customer says it didn't meet the mark. It doesn't mean it was bad. It didn't meet expectation. That's all it was. I said, no problem. I'll repeat it for you for free. The customer says, no, don't need to. But I said, I have to, because it didn't meet the mark. Because if I didn't meet the mark, it means I did not glorify God with my work. My customers didn't like it. Someone gave feedback that it wasn't good enough. I need to change that. And that's what I'm saying. It's having pride in our work. God made sure that I always do work that honors Him and made me a perfectionist in the process, and my customers like that. So I get a lot of repeat business. I don't keep having to go out there to look for new business. But a lot of this is part of the learning that we do. We don't all do that all the time. It's only situations that requires it, that we have to use those techniques. Okay, and of course, this is a workshop that came in. The first workshop came in February or March, if I'm not wrong. Now, apologize for the term like AZ900. This is for Microsoft Azure Cloud Technology. There's a certification called AZ900. Now, why is AZ900 special? It's because the customer came from nowhere. They said, oh, we heard that you are the best person to do this class. And by the way, at that time, I wasn't certified for it. Not only I wasn't certified, I've never trained it before. A customer came to me and says, you are the best person. Now, there are two options when customers come to you in that situation. You can either try to wing it, if you understand what I mean by that, wing it, or do something that glorifies God. So you know which route I took, right? So you look at the feedback. Well-structured, very good session. Training was on point with tips and tricks. Now, how is it possible that when you do it for the first time, you can get that kind of feedback? On a person level, not possible. When God is part of the plan, anything is possible. Right? So that's the bit where you need to understand honoring God has to be top of mind. It's a goal that you go after. Honor God first. Now, how do you honor God? Do the best possible. Absolutely. That's how you get things like great engagement. Okay? And this is all virtual, by the way. They didn't have the luxury of a face-to-face session like what we're doing. It's all virtual. And guess where the people were coming from? From Australia, New Zealand, all the way to India. We didn't have anyone from Japan and Korea, but we have people from Hong Kong, all the way south to Indonesia. You understand what I'm saying? So the point here is when you do it with the right mission in mind, to honor God, that means do the best you can. You think creatively in the most amazing way, you will be able to do it. Trust me. If you run out of ideas, brainstorm with me, I'll help you. Okay, this is what I do with my team in the region. Okay, so this is the other one that we ask our customers all the time. How likely are you going to continue to join us in future sessions? It's a very bold question to ask, you know. If the customer says, never again, you know what I'll do? I'll chase after the customer and find out why. What did I not do? Because this is very, very sad for me that you will say such a thing. You understand what I'm saying? Most people want the best answers. I'm actually more interested in the bad answers. Because the bad answers give me a chance to improve. Good answers like this don't tell me nuts about how I can do better the next time. You understand what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, when you get results like this, where the customer says, I will recommend my friends and colleagues to come to your sessions, it means a testimony that I honored God. You understand what I'm saying? So these are the ways we continue to learn. All right, and we, how to say the word anal about chasing after feedback. We hunger for that. So it gives us a chance to continuously ongoing and do it in a passionate way. Right? The passion comes out through the work we do and the way we do it. Okay, so it's not just about executing something and just winging it, but it takes small little steps. Because a lot of people sometimes say, you know, to get up there, I need to run, I need to chase, I need to jump and so forth. But actually it took a lot of little steps. But it has to start maybe even with a tiptoe. That's why that saying in there is very good. And this is actually one of my favorite verses in the Bible. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart. As working for the Lord here refers to our Lord Jesus Christ. That means we work with Him guiding our way. If not, you have no compass in your life. You're just going after the money. All right? The reward is actually what He wants to give us. Let the Lord decide for us what our needs are. Okay? So for us, from a technology perspective, this guy is like our leader, if you want. He's the CEO of Microsoft. His name is Satya Nadella. Right? So in October, there's going to be a big event. All right? Around the world, people will go there and learn. The best thing is, because of the pandemic, it's all virtual. You can learn from anywhere. Okay? So we need to make an effort to recharge and learn. Okay? So this is another event that just passed recently, a couple of weeks ago, called Inspire. But all of these are things where we get to learn. Some people say, I don't know where to learn and how to learn. There's always opportunity. But when we learn, like when I learn from the Bible, you have to apply. You understand? Be courageous, take the risk. Let me show you an example of what we do, right, in taking a risk. And the risk actually had a gap. Okay, so possibilities and opportunities doesn't give you guarantees. There will be time things don't work out. Now, this lady is special because she was one of my colleagues in Microsoft. She started a chain of restaurants called La Juiceria. How many of you have heard of that chain, right? The health food chain of, right? She is one of my colleagues, ex-colleagues, Annabelle. She's a Filipino, by the way. So the thing is, she talked about how when Microsoft took over Nokia, right, and it didn't work out. Okay, but that's a story you can read out on the internet. But a lot of the things that we do, we have to take baby steps, small steps. Don't be scared to try. Right? I'm always overzealous to try. Try means we think about it, we plan it, we execute it a little bit at a time. Right? Testing the waters if you want. You know how we've read in books where we say we put our toes into the water and test it. See whether the temperature is just right. Don't get yourself burnt. Okay? So, right direction. Which direction is the right direction? For me, it's the direction that Jesus tells me to go on a daily basis. Now, some people say, I go to church on the weekend. That's my once a week. I choose to say, that's not enough for me. So my quiet time daily gives me that compass, that direction. Okay? And of course, the biggest step actually sometimes is just that tiptoe, like this. All right? One step at a time. And you get there. And that's what I've discovered in the last couple of years during the pandemic. Don't stop. Keep going and keep going. So the new ideas that I get as I share with you, a lot of it comes from my daily quiet time. And also my Bible study time. You know, when I commit to someone to do Bible study with them, a lot of times they come out at the most inconvenient time. Something's about to happen. You see, the thoughts that the evil one tries to put into your head to give you reasons to abandon that Bible time, the Bible study time, the quiet time that you have. All right, and of course, the church service time. All right, good news, I've continued to go back to physical church service, but I found that the online service gives a different way for me to spend more time. So go for physical, go for online. So 8:30 in the morning is online, 11 o'clock physical. All right, so it's a great best of both worlds. Now, the risk that I took a few years ago was this particular boot camp, we call it, that my wife says, don't do it. Don't do it. It's too big a risk. Look at the cost, 60,000 US for 5 days of training. That is the cost that we had to bear to organize the workshop. Back then, 60K was 240,000 ringgit for 5 days. I had to charge each participant 4,000 US in order to break even, but it was short. I was short of 10,000 ringgit. That means after running it, I couldn't collect enough. So of course, like any business deal, it was a bad business deal. That's what we all think, right? Because we lost money. But guess what feedback I got from my participants? The best workshop they've ever attended. Very high quality. Because of the standard that God put in me. You want to honor me, you organize the most highest of quality workshop in my name. Although it's expensive, they said it was value for money. Now what does that mean? Huh? When something is expensive and people say it's value for money, it was worth paying for it. You understand what I'm saying? It was worth paying for it. And it was worth the time they invested, because there are people from the region fly in. From Australia, from Indonesia, from Thailand, from across the region came. You understand what I'm saying? That is key. But the 10,000 loss could have said to me, stop doing these things. You're not in the making loss business. But guess what? A month later, the Microsoft team came to me. You know what they said? You're the only one capable of doing this workshop. I will give you a $50,000 deal for it. So what did I lose? I lost 10 here, I got 50 there. What's the math like? Net 40,000. Was it worth it? So you take the right risk with the right people setting the direction for you, with the right compass, you cannot go wrong. Because God wanted me to make sure that everything I do, I honor Him. And He honored me back with another deal. Right? So that's the world we live in, you see. We need to trust Him, because the plan that I had was to do the best workshop. But no matter how hard I strived, there was a gap. But He says, go ahead, do it. You got the ball rolling, you cannot stop now. The last bit to leave you with is, do it like what Jesus wants us to do. Use the fruit of the Spirit. Now, most of us probably don't know what the fruit of the Spirit is, unless we read that part of the Bible, right? So I thought this kind of, how to say, animated version brings some fun into the sharing. Peace, love, faithfulness, patience, caring, gentleness, joy, goodness, kindness, and self-control. Now, the bit that touches me most is these two, kindness and faithfulness. See, faithfulness talks about how much we are willing to continue to journey with the person, like my mom-in-law and the rest of my community that I serve in the region, no matter the highs or the lows. It's being faithful. And it comes at a cost. Like I was just sharing during dinner, I spent a lot of time on the road. As a result, I neglected my family. That was the cost. So now, during the pandemic, God gave me a chance to catch up. Right? If you ask my wife, I haven't done a very good job, even during the pandemic. But it's baby steps. You need to try. Don't give up. So through the kindness that you spread through your work, people can see the heart of why you're doing it. And that helps break any obstacles that come into the way. It's not easy. Okay, trust me, it's very hard work. Again, it's about taking baby steps. Right? How many of us have the courage to even start taking the baby steps? All right, the smallest steps help. Don't be scared. The right direction is what matters. Okay? Now, that said, right, how do we end this message that you've come this far? This is, if you want, the pivotal bit of our message. Whatever you do it with the right heart. The right heart is actually you serving the right God. The God that cares for you, that dies for you. Okay? So this inheritance that we have as a reward, like what happened to my mom-in-law who just passed on, is salvation in heaven. Okay, so that's the bit that is most important to all of us at the end of the day. Now, this year itself is the 8th year for myIAN. Now, 8th year in the Bible talks about, after the 7th year, canceling debt. I actually had an opportunity to cancel a debt for one of my partners who is not doing well. Right? We canceled 40,000 ringgit worth of debt. For a very small company like us, 40,000 is a lot of money. But we gladly, in order to help this individual and his company to survive, we decided to cancel the debt. Okay? So all of these is done to honor him. It's not like I don't want the 40,000. In fact, when I told my company secretary and accountant that I'm going to do that, you know what she said? No way. I'm going to get that back for you for the hard work that you put in. She tried. 2 weeks later, she says, I think what you said is right. It's not worth pursuing. Okay? God already knows. Right? Our God says, after the 7th year, on the 8th year, you cancel the debt. And I'll honor you. And you know how he honored me? At the end of July, God gave me 2 workshops worth 26,000 US. So I forgo a 40,000 debt, and I got a 26,000 US deal. And you know how many days of work I had to do to get 26,000? 6 days. 6 days of work to get 26,000 US. Trust him. He says cancel, you cancel. Don't even think twice about it. He gives you back much more than you're giving away. That's the power of our God. Praise the Lord. So the Raise Me Up was truly exciting for me. When I saw Pastor Jeffrey talked about it, it really raised me up. I saw how myIAN grew and my own faith grew because of what we did to honor God. Thank you so much.